everybody to this edition of the Prodigy Collective Conversations. My name is Rena, Chiovelli, the content creator for Prodigy Collective, and I'm here today with Terra Milo, our tech guru. Hi, Terra.
Hi, I'm so excited.
Yeah, good. I am too. So today we're talking about automating evergreen content. So I think to start, I'll explain to people what evergreen content is, because it's a term that is used a lot, but I'm not sure how well known it is or how well understood it is for people. So just to get everybody up to speed, evergreen content is content that stays relevant over a long period of time. So many, many months or even years. And the key here is that it has to be interesting content that provides value and stays fresh for that long period of time. So evergreen content is something you can look up on the internet, and you get lots of different examples there. And it's one of my favorite pieces of content to create, even though sometimes it can take a little bit longer, it's a little bit more challenging. I think it has a lot of benefits. So we'll just get right into it here, and let's talk about the best ways to reuse evergreen content. So Terra, can you talk to us a little bit about the different types of automation systems out there that help us to spread the evergreen content around and how they work?
Yeah, absolutely. So something that I just did recently was, well, in the last year maybe, I set up an evergreen funnel. Basically, it's an evergreen sequence, and everything I write goes into that sequence. So all of my content is evergreen, which I love, right? Isn't that the dream?
Yeah, because you're creating that library, basically,
Yes.
of content. Yeah.
Exactly. And the other thing I love about it is that I don't feel that pressure to constantly be producing a newsletter every week, because it's in my sequence and people are getting that sequence every week. So the difference between a newsletter is that a newsletter sends one time to everyone who's on your list at that time, and a sequence or evergreen content sends to people based on when they joined. It just sends like once a week, or once, maybe twice a week, twice a month, once a month, whatever you set up your schedule to be. So
okay, so just to understand then, so if I signed up for your content, for your emails,
yep.
would I then start at the beginning of the sequence for whatever that is? So everybody starts with the same content and they just go through it as they go. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. So what's cool is I get emails like, Terra, I really love this email. And I'm like, wow, I wrote that like a year ago. I'm glad that's so valuable for people.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Okay.
But I have to say, when it works best and when it doesn't exactly work, because I work with a lot of like health coaches and life coaches. So if you're talking about the best smoothies for summer, you don't really want to put that in an evergreen sequence, because it might be winter when somebody gets it. So it's best if it's really evergreen content and not really timely content.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a really important point, because even last week I saw an ad, like a Facebook sponsored ad from someone, and it was talking about getting your scheduling or your business scheduled well for the holidays. And it's like August, right? And I was like, or it's September now, I guess, but and I'm like, that doesn't make, what holidays? Like, we're not even close to Thanksgiving.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So I think that there was a bit of an error of like maybe using an evergreen sequence or something and mistiming it. So I think that is a really important thing to watch out for, particularly when you're doing seasonal stuff.
Yeah. I do have an email called Spring Clean Your Website. So I just go in and make it relevant to the season, like freshen it up for summer or whatever. But I have to remember to do that. So that's the thing about the evergreen sequence is like, you kind of have to know what's in your sequence if it's relevant or not for the holidays or the new year or stuff like that.
Okay. Is there like a program that you use for that that's better than others?
Well, I use ConvertKit. And the reason I use ConvertKit is I have a lot of different ways that people enter my list. So they might sign up for a PDF, or they might sign up for a webinar, and then they all get funneled into the same sequence. Right. But MailChimp just announced a couple of weeks ago that their automation is free for everyone. So if you're just starting out and you have one opt-in gift, just use MailChimp because it's free and you can set up everything as an ongoing automation sequence. Really
cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to talk about in terms of reusing evergreen content is the idea of reusing one piece of content in multiple different ways. So this is something that I really love to do. So for example, if you created like a really popular, say, Facebook live stream, like it doesn't even have to be written content, but a live stream, and the topic was creating sales, and it went really well. It got lots of traffic, lots of views, lots of shares, and you felt really inspired by it. It was obviously a really good piece of content. So something about like creating sales, for instance, is generic enough that it's evergreen. I mean, it's something that'll be relevant for a really long time. So why not take that piece of content and reuse it in other mediums, in other ways, so that you can generate that same buzz in different places. So for example, you could transcribe it and you could take direct quotes from that live stream that you said and turn them into graphics for Instagram or other social media. You could turn it into a blog or a series of blogs, depending how long it was, right? And you could release it that way. You could also use it as a basis for a Facebook ad script or something like that. So I really like repurposing one piece of content in multiple ways. I think there's real value there. And again, it adds to a library of content that you have, right?
Yeah, that's so smart. I love that.
Yeah. Okay, the next thing I wanted to talk about today was ideas for evergreen content. So sometimes people get a little stuck on like, well, what do I write about?
Yep.
There's a lot of information on the internet for this, but some of my, I guess, favorite tips for creating evergreen content are doing how-to lists. And this is particularly good for like a beginner audience. So if you're marketing to a niche of beginners, how to do something is a really good piece of evergreen content. Collection of best resources for a certain topic or niche is also something that gets circulated really well on the internet, I find. And I think my favorite thing is to, and this is just me kind of being Rena, but warming up to controversy. So a lot of people will avoid talking about or writing about controversial topics. I really personally like to warm up to controversy once in a while. I think it keeps content interesting and relevant, and controversial topics tend to be controversial over long periods of time. So you can certainly use them as evergreen content. So for example, I'm writing a blog right now for Boss Babes about women being hard on each other in business. It's a topic of the ages, yet very few people like to talk about it. Even doing my research for it, I found it difficult to find relevant research for this. There's a great business community out there of women, and I know I have wonderful relationships with many women in business. But you know what? If I'm being honest, I've had women be real horrible to me in the business world. I mean, there's not a lot, but it's out there, and I always wonder, or I've witnessed it, as well. And I think, this is something I really want to write about, even though it's controversial. And I've even had some pushback when I've done some of my beta questions in Facebook groups and that kind of thing about it. People are like, well, you're whatever. I mean, they'll resist the idea that it exists, but that makes me want to write about it even more, because I think it's important to talk about these things, right? I think the most important thing to remember if you're going to broach a controversial topic for your evergreen content is to make sure that it's well researched. Particularly like the position that you're taking on the controversy. Research for both sides is great, but particularly backing up your position for that. The research, helps that evergreen content become so powerful and remains so well circulated over, a period of 1 or 2 years even. And I've seen a number of evergreen contents like that as well. So I'm wondering, Terra, what your thoughts are on how to release evergreen. So I know I struggle with whether I should take that really good live stream, put it in a whole bunch of different formats, and then sort of release it all like within the same week, or if I should space it out, and how I should sequence that. So how would you recommend that?
Yeah, I would plug it into a sequence, like my automation sequence. Or if you use a tool like, I like Smarter Queue. It's kind of like Hello Edgar, where you can schedule your social media posts to be recycled. So you write this content as maybe a newsletter, but then you also put it on your blog, and then you have this evergreen social media content that's constantly driving people back to that blog post. So that's how I would do it, is those two things. I would have it in an automation sequence for my email, and then also for social media posts. And I love the idea of repurposing content that way, and always driving people back to your website. So one of my most popular posts is about Instagram, and I have a little trick for sharing Instagram pictures to Twitter without the link. It's an actual picture, and that blog post gets a ton of traffic. So if you have a post like that that you notice is getting a lot of traffic, you want to build a freebie around it to grow your email list. So that's just kind of an extra tip, not really about evergreen content, but that's the value of having good evergreen content and scheduling it to be recycled a lot of times. So.
Right. So I wonder, just before I know we're running a little bit close to time here, but I wanted to just talk about that a little bit longer in terms of, I'm wondering, like, what's the line between repurposing your evergreen content, or what your thoughts are on this, and like kind of looking like you're spewing out the same stuff all the time, or like if you keep going back to something, people can be like, she keeps talking about this one thing. I'm not sure if you've ever run into that or not, but.
Yeah. Here's the thing about that is we feel like that, but nobody sees all your content. So it's more of like
really?
your self-conscious. Yeah.
You mean there's no like Rena only reading content from Rena daily? No, doing that? Okay.
No.
All right.
Yeah. And people forget stuff easily. So like my Twitter recycle thing probably isn't that long. So stuff gets reposted probably more than once a month, but nobody sees it each time. And if they do, it's just a reminder for them. So I think that's something that we get a lot more self-conscious about. And I'm really aware of that because I don't like to repeat myself. It's really, really hard for me to repeat myself. I think it's like an introvert tendency that we don't like to do that. So having that sequence set up is really comforting because it just goes and I don't have to consciously repeat myself. And the same thing with the smarter queue, that kind of queue of social media posts, they're just going out. I don't have to know that I'm repeating myself, but people are finding a lot of value from it.
Right. Okay. That's awesome. Thanks, Terra. So final thoughts for today. I do think we have awesome opportunity to merge that sort of the creativeness of creating evergreen content and merging it with the more practical technology and sequencing stuff. And I think that just provides businesses with so much opportunity and value added to their content. So I think my takeaway for today is to take your best evergreen content and use it in different ways to promote yourself and to produce that fresh content for people to see.
Yeah.
What's your takeaway?
It's such a great idea. And my thought is just to use technology to make it easy on yourself. I really like to plug my best content into that email sequence so everybody sees it, not just the people who are on my list the day I send it. Everybody gets that valuable content. And I don't have to be stressed out about producing something every day. So just make it easy for yourself.
That's right. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Terra. Our time's up for today's conversation. Had a great time talking about this this particular topic. Hope you've enjoyed it as well.
I have. Thank you so much. I love this topic so much. I love it.
Awesome. All right. Well, if you'd like to listen to more collective conversations or find out more about Prodigy Collective coaching packages, you can visit us online at collective.prodigyandco.com.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Rena.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.